is the magic, right? When we see the tour players, you know, hitting balls in the range, we see them on the golf course, and it's like, wow, they don't really swing that hard at it. Well, they've really figured out the timing of both the linear points and the angular points to be able to maximize the speed effectively.
Hi everyone, I'm Bally.
I'm Mark.
And this is our good buddy, Scott Cowx. We are going to drop some more knowledge on you. Well, I don't really have much knowledge, but Scott's going to drop some knowledge on you.
He's going to teach us.
Today he's going to teach us about, why don't you tell him? I'll probably screw it up.
All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about hand speed versus club head speed and that relationship a little bit, and some of the things that we can do to hit the golf ball further. So everyone's obviously interested in hitting it further, but we're going to understand that speed is really created from what we call some linear components, or moving basically the entire golf club, and we have what we call angular components, where the club head is traveling faster than the handle. And the combination of those two things together is what gives you your club head speed. So we've got a fun little device here called the DeWiz. Bryson DeChambeau and Henrik Stenson, a few great players are sort of using this. Vijay Singh is involved in the company. Kind of shows the timing and measures hand speed as well as tempo and some of the other aspects of timing. So really fun device. We're going to use that on Bally and Mark here to help them maybe unlock a few more yards and understand how they create speed.
Very cool.
All right, let's get to it.
So
It's true. Yeah.
all right, so one of the things that we're looking at here is how, Matt, you produce club head speed. So we have two sources of club head speed. So what we have here is, go ahead and bring that to the top here, just so the viewer can understand this, is basically all of these pieces from the top of the swing, what we're doing against the ground, what we're doing with our body, really that's putting a whole bunch of speed into the lead arm. And what we see with great players is that they max out their hand speed right around here, okay? So right around this location is where the arms, or this lead arm, is actually traveling the fastest. Now from there, what actually has to happen is this lead arm actually has to slow down a little bit before impact to allow all of these angles to come around and square up and produce a reasonable impact position, okay? So this part of the swing, to a large extent, is what we would call linear power, because you're speeding up the grip and the head together. So that's what we call linear work. The second part is really we're slowing down this end a little bit and allowing this end to speed up. And that's what we call the angular work. So club head speed is really a product of both of those things. Now, what the watch is going to help us determine for you is how you do it. And there's certainly a signature involved with each player in how you produce both the hand speed as well as what we call the release speed is very much your personal signature here. And if we can, we're going to try and manipulate it a little bit to see if we can get a little bit more output. So let's have you hit a couple of shots now.
Okay. Also, this thing looks cool, so it makes me feel good.
Yeah. Put a little bling on it.
Yeah.
Perfect. And just before you hit, just again, give it a little pause there.
Not my forte. I will do my best for you, Coach. Yeah, hair's skinny, but I mean, the ball got up in the air anyway. It's not embarrassing.
So when we look at that swing, what we see here is we're going to see that your maximum hand speed, okay, was 21 miles an hour, and it occurred about 53 centimeters before impact. Now, what we generally see so far with the values is somewhere around 47 or so with a 7-iron. So we were a little bit early in creating that maximum hand speed. So there's probably a little bit of potential here. Now the 21 miles an hour of hand speed is very high. Tour average is somewhere between 19 to 21. So we're right in that sort of tour average range for hand speed. But our angular component wasn't so great. We cut out about 5 miles an hour of hand speed, or let's say watch speed there, between the maximum point and impact. And really what we see really long hitters do is they're able to almost cut that number in half. So that lead arm decelerates almost half of its speed if we're a really, really long hitter, especially somebody like a Tony Finau or a Cameron Champ, maybe Sergio Garcia, who would appear to be, let's say, a little bit more whippy, if you will, through the golf ball. Okay? So there's some potential here from a speed perspective to increase the angular side of this. So what I want you to do on the next one is let's try it again. And let's take just a little stronger grip, okay? And I want you to feel like we kind of Sergio this a little bit, if you will, and feel like there's a little bit longer lag here, that we're driving the handle a little bit longer toward the golf ball.
Okay.
And then you're going to have to really react and stabilize this to get all the angles out.
Okay.
Okay, and if we do that, we might see some magic happen here.
Let's see it.
Felt different. I don't know if that's what you're looking for.
Okay. So a little bit better, okay? So hand speed actually went up very slightly, it was 21.4. Okay, so again, very, very high hand speed. We cut out about 5 miles an hour out of that one. So right now again, we see the very longest hitters cutting out almost 50%, okay? I would say a lot of players will cut out about 6 miles an hour, 7 miles an hour tends to be the normal on a 7-iron.
Okay.
You're still cutting out about 5 miles an hour. Okay?
And so for my weak brain to understand, cutting out is basically this slowing down so this can speed up?
Correct, exactly.
Okay.
So just like you would if you had something loose in the backseat of your car and you hammered on the brakes, whatever's in the backseat of the car is getting thrown forward. And essentially that's what we call the angular component. So we're cutting some of the hand speed out to get the club head to kick out faster.
Okay.
Okay? Everything that happened before that is you're trying to, it's like me slamming the brakes on at 100 kilometers an hour is going to throw something forward harder than if I was doing 50 kilometers an hour.
Okay, that makes sense.
So that's the first piece of the puzzle. We want to put as much hand speed as we can into it so that when I do slam those brakes, this thing is going to come through very, very, very rapidly.
Okay.
Okay? So the good news is you like to drive 150 kilometers an hour, okay, because you've got lots of hand speed, but you got a bad set of brakes.
So I just got to slam on the brakes as
Harder.
opposed to slowly. Okay, got it.
Correct.
All right.
Okay? All right, let's see if we can do it a little bit better here.
See if we can wear out the tires in this car.
Okay?
All right. So you want stronger grip.
Now the good news, by the way, the last one was timed perfectly at 47 centimeters.
Oh, hey.
Okay, so that part of it, you actually did drive the handle a little bit longer, okay, or a little bit later.
Okay.
Let's try it again.
Faster.
Ball speed's jumping. I think, yeah, it's a bit shut.
Okay,
A lot shut.
now, pretty good. You did actually what I wanted you to do, okay? So the hand speed got a little quicker, okay? Or sorry, right around the same, 21.1, but you cut out about 5.5 miles an hour,
Okay, so that relation's getting better.
right? Which caused the club to kick out harder, but because it happened at 53 centimeters instead of 47, by the time you got to the ball, what was the face going to do?
So it's already released. It's
Correct.
like it's left. It's
Right.
Okay.
But what you did was actually quite good, okay? We just have to have it happen a little bit later in terms of that maximal hand
Okay.
speed. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so that would explain why I play with such a weak grip, because I'm afraid of left.
But really all you need to do is make it later.
Release that later.
Okay.
So it's not about, that's why generally your longest hitters have the strongest grips,
Okay.
okay? Is their distance, if you weigh from impact, is often a little bit less.
I see. So so the probably relate.
They can use the angular component, right? This is where, not everyone's going to be able to do this,
Yeah.
right? If I'm not strong enough to handle the torques involved to have that rapid deceleration, then I'm probably going to go early and just kind of gently, if I've got bad brakes,
Yeah.
right, I'm probably going to tap the brakes.
Okay.
So I want you to race up to the line and slam those brakes,
All right.
okay? And then what's going to happen is the club's going to fling out the hardest, and it's going to feel effortless.
I have no idea where my hands are.
Okay? Now, I'll tell you what, that was 44 centimeters from impact.
Okay, so that's kind of
So
where you
whatever
are.
you just did was great.
Yeah, and
now
it's
your
very
hand speed
foreign.
was a little bit slower, okay? So your hand speed was 20.7, but you cut out 7.3 miles an hour.
So there it
So
was.
So
that
more
is-
efficient
That
ratio?
would be about what we see a little bit with some of the tour players, okay?
Okay.
So that would be a great combination. Obviously, Didn't hit it that great, so the ball speed wasn't fantastic. But in terms of the makeup or the timing of your release pattern,
Okay.
that was a lot better.
Yeah.
All right, let me try that again, because I mean, going down here, my hands, I was like, I have no idea where the club is, no idea where my hands are. Okay, let me try it again,
Perfect.
but that kind of made sense. It's.
You got to make sure Mark wins the bets for a while.
Well, I mean, the poor guy is just getting. I'm becoming a bully.
All right, so do the same thing. Let us drive it as close to impact as you can, really hard if you can, and then go ahead and figure out how to get the face on it.
I may have let that one out a bit earlier.
Yeah, so not bad. Okay, 51 centimeters, so it was a little bit early again.
Okay.
But you see how you're starting to feel the difference.
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, let's try it again. Try and make it late.
Okay.
Like, to be truthful, it's going to feel too late to you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Well,
Because
I feel like I'm going to hit it into the net.
correct. But
Okay.
as you then stabilize or slow down that lead arm, that's causing the club to come around in a circle very rapidly, and it's still going to square up for us. Okay?
Ah.
Okay? Now that was actually very early.
Yeah.
Okay?
It felt early.
Okay, let's do it again.
Okay.
So this is the fun part actually, is there's definitely a different sense to this. When you do it correctly, it's going to feel very fast at the bottom, but in a way it's going to feel less effort because there's going to be a greater angular component involved here. Okay? So one of the things I think that'll help you out, Matt, is actually feeling like you take it back a little shorter, but then accelerate harder. And that'll move that
Okay.
a little bit closer to the golf ball. Okay? So if we overswing the backswing sometimes, what ends up happening, we end up dumping out the angular early. Okay?
I felt like that was different.
Okay, that was nice. Okay, well done. So hand speed was great. We cut out again. We cut out about 6.5 miles an hour out of that one.
Interesting.
So you see how that kind of felt like, even though the overall club head speed wasn't that much different,
It felt slow to my body,
right?
but
the way we produced
Like
it
fast,
was
yeah.
a little bit different.
Huh.
Okay, let's try that one more time.
okay. Yeah, it didn't feel like I was moving fast.
Right. And this is the magic, right? When we see the tour players, hitting balls in the range, or we see them on the golf course, and it's like, wow, they don't really swing that hard at it. Well, they've really figured out the timing of both the linear points and the angular points to be able to maximize the speed effectively.
Okay.
All right, that was different. Well done. Okay. So what we
the
got
body
there,
seemed to work.
that was great. So we got 21.5 miles an hour of hand speed there. Okay.
And that's fast.
That was good. And we cut out, we're exactly at 47 centimeters.
Oh.
Okay. So the timing on that one was excellent. Okay. Even though, again, might have been a slight miss, hit a little bit low in the face.
Yeah, I didn't catch
okay. But that was a smoother, let's call it more efficient way of producing, at least at this point, the same amount of energy.
Okay.
But as we get better with this, there's certainly some potential. So let's do one last one.
Okay.
Then we'll let Mark have a try.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm curious. Very cool.
It's definitely something that takes practice, but I'm starting to understand the correlation to.
Well, there's also some things here that are effectively, so generally what we see from a fitting perspective is a lot of times players that have a very, very short window where they maximize that, let's say 45 or less centimeters, often will prefer swing weights, okay? That might be a little bit different than somebody who is creating the speed earlier. Okay.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So
Maybe heavier to keep it behind them.
correct. So there's some interesting things with
Yeah,
swing
yeah,
weight
yeah.
and even shaft types. And usually there's a family of shafts that each player kind of likes the feel of. And that's what we're kind of looking at a little bit right now is seeing how does that affect the delivery of that club? How does it change the delivery of the club? Okay. So just naturally, if I give you more weight or less weight, how does it affect you?
Yeah, and you'll react differently.
You'll react totally differently.
Yeah. That was different.
Oh, ball speed jumped.
Okay.
That one.
Right, so very, very good. Okay, so you're starting to figure out how to, get that speed out.
That felt like a little chip to me.
Okay.
Like
But you see how the ball speed went up, and that's sort of like the angular components. Even though the raw speed was the same,
yeah.
okay, the way you produce the speed was completely different.
Yeah,
Okay,
you can see it.
Like, yeah, you could hear it.
You could actually see that one. You're right. So let's do that one more time.
Okay.
Okay.
Yikes.
Very
Do one last one.
Okay.
This one.
I may have been moving too much. I
Look at
don't
the
know.
ball speed though.
Yeah.
Okay.
Man, it's coming off like a missile.
Right. That's the angular.
Yikes.
So even though, right, your club speed's gone up about 3, right? We started around 86, 87. That was just smoothing it, obviously.
Yeah, but I still feel like I'm smoothing it. I don't feel like
But because you're getting a larger angular component, we're translating that into a higher smash.
Yeah. It's
Okay.
definitely 114.
And we're now starting to kill this thing. Right? And that's why you can take tour players often and you'll have them hit shots on TrackMan or whatever, and they could be identical club speeds. And one guy's got ball speeds that are 5 miles an hour faster than the other guy. It's like, well, how is he doing it?
Yeah.
Now, sometimes it's obviously lost and those
Yeah,
kind of
launch
properties.
is going to change that. Sure.
But there's
sure.
some interesting things when it comes to this idea of being more angular or less angular. And again, for each player, there's sort of a happy medium there. Right?
Okay.
Some players don't like that feel.
Yeah.
Right? It feels too risky, too much work down there. Other players want to feel maybe like they just pull forever on this.
Well, and so that's
Okay.
for me. You guys are like, no, keep going with the hands. So it was just like, just pull the grip across the ball. Your hands will make the club find the golf ball.
Right.
And so eventually it was like, oh, okay, and trusting it. But
So we're looking at this, again, that's, the interesting thing is obviously you get to make all these tough decisions on what do you want more of,
Yeah.
right? Because there's always trade-offs, right?
Sure.
If we're losing control because we're trying to be more angular, then
Mm-hmm.
it's probably not worth it, right? But if we can have the same control and smash it obviously more effectively, that type of a release pattern that we just worked on is probably better out of the rough. Probably better out of tough lies because basically you're driving the handle closer to impact. We're basically going to probably get a little bit more negative on the angle of attack, which is going to help us in tougher
more
lies
hit
and
into the
stuff.
ball.
Right.
Okay.
So less sweepy, if you will.
Yeah,
The way
okay.
we were when we had the hand speed happen earlier, now the club's kind of coming around, we're kind of dragging it through. You're going through a foot of rough,
Okay.
before you get to the ball. Instead of this way, you're probably going through 3 or 4 inches of rough.
Got it.
Okay, so that's where there's some interesting decisions to be made. But anyways, let's see if we get Mark on
Yeah,
that.
this will be interesting. Wow.
Yeah. Very
Cool.